Okay, let's talk about BreadTubers. Specifically, how every single one of like the big old guard BreadTubers turned out to be a moronic liberal. Shock horror, right? You know, who could have seen that coming? So today, we're going to be talking about not ContraPoints. We're going to be talking about PhilosophyTube, who just released a video basically incompetently covering the sort of thing that I covered 4 or 5 years ago in my video on Manifest Destiny and Lebensraum. PhilosophyTube videos are basically worse than Wikipedia articles. Like, you would legitimately be better served reading about like American colonial ideology on a Wikipedia page than you would be from watching a PhilosophyTube video on it. And this is in general too. It's not just that like she's not left enough for me, it's that she's just wrong on a lot of the things that she talks about. And this has become more and more obvious as the years go by and she's forced to deal with topics that she is less and less familiar with and is just still trying to pump out content anyway. She's the #2 purveyor of style over substance on YouTube after ContraPoint. So this is my video on the same topic, and this is her new video incompetently covering the same topic, like American colonial ideology, blah, blah, blah. Now, PhilosophyTube is someone who has straight up acknowledged recently that she doesn't talk about Gaza because she's worried about how it might affect her career. Like a Reddit comment said, Abby is a professional actor and making a capital S statement on how she really feels would probably do an extreme amount of damage to her career. And then she responds to that with a heart, clearly implying that she, you know, that's the reason. I don't want to hurt my career because she's in like Star Wars shows and stuff now. So that's more valuable to her than actual like political action, right? Maintaining her career. She can't speak about Gaza because she's maintaining her career. And she does mention Gaza for like the first time, or one of like maybe twice ever since the genocide began in this video in not a good way. Like paying lip service to both sides on the issue on whether Israel genocides Palestinians or not. Get ready, because it's a fucking doozy, and I'm going to tell you precisely why after you watch it.
Speaking of which, this is a bigger topic than we have time to get into today, but PhilosophyTube's audience has a diversity of political views, and I'm sure some of you will be drawing parallels between the process that the United States went through with American Indians and the process Israel has gone through with Palestinians since it was founded in 1948.
You notice that she does not say that she is on either side of this. She's just acknowledging both sides of the issue. The raper and the raped, the murderer and the murdered, the colonizer and the colonized. There's two sides to this, right?
Illegal settlements, crimes by settlers tolerated by government, American presidents saying they want to just move in and take over the land. Our question for today is, why is America the way that it is? And today, in America, many people are protesting the actions of the Israeli government. You may have heard people describe Israel...
People describe it, not her.
...as a settler colonial state or as genocidal. And these historical parallels are partly why they say that. I am aware that Israeli scholars have their responses.
The Israelis have their responses, okay? There's nuance here. There's two sides to this.
That the US and Israel are not the only countries to instantiate this pattern, or something very close to it, and that a proper treatment of this subject would need to be done at length with due concern for the global rise in anti-Semitic hate crime that...
No, it wouldn't. Why? What the fuck would anti-Semitic hate crimes have to do with whether there's a genocide of Palestinians or not? But I want you to note something there. How when it comes to the genocide of the Palestinians, there's two sides with their own opinions, and she doesn't want to pronounce either way. But when it comes to a supposed rise in anti-Semitic hate crimes, that is stated as a fact. That is stated as an uncontroversial fact. That is her opinion. She states as her opinion, there is a rise in anti-Semitic hate crimes. And this is somehow related to the question of whether or not there is genocide in Gaza, which she is not willing to pronounce on either way. That says so fucking much about her. 60,000 Palestinians, minimum, slaughtered by Israel for being Palestinian, for not being Jewish. Apparently, this is something which, you know, whether we can describe it as a genocide, that's up in the air. However, a rise in anti-Semitic hate crimes, where Jews, around 80-90% of which worldwide support Israel, are Zionists, support the genocidal project that Israel represents. Like, she just uncritically spouts it as fact that there is a rise in anti-Semitic hate crimes. She frames Jews, like right now, as victims more so than she ever did Palestinians in her own words. There's no analysis of of whether, like, you know, there are two sides to this argument of whether there is actually a supposed global anti-Semitism crisis. She just states it as fact that there is, and that this somehow has to be talked about when dealing with the issue of the Jewish supremacist genocide of Palestinians by Israel. It has to be considered. Like, I guess she thinks she has to water down her opinion on that. Just let, you know, less people do anti-Semitism because of it. What an insane thing to say. Now, there is no anti-Semitism crisis. If PhilosophyTube had to try and justify that using evidence, she would end up having to cite like the ADL and Israel lobby groups and stuff. And if you analyze their supposed evidence for this, it falls over flat. What there is a global anti-Palestinianism crisis. You know how we know that? Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have been massacred for being Palestinians in just 2 years. Not even talking about before that, when there still was a global anti-Palestinianism crisis. If you're willing to pronounce so incredibly confidently, without even acknowledging that there might be any sort of fault to the claim that you're making here, that there is a global anti-Semitism crisis, and yet, when it comes to the wholesale massacre of Palestinians for their ethnicity, for not being of the Jewish ethnicity, there's suddenly nuance, and there's both sides, and Israeli scholars also have their arguments, and you're scared to pronounce either way. That is so indicative of who you are, where you stand, and why. She is trying to toe the line here so that she keeps getting in, like, roles in fucking Star Wars and Marvel and shit. There is no reason to continue watching PhilosophyTube. Her videos are worse than Wikipedia articles, as I said. Her video on Nietzsche was fucking horrible. She very revealingly as well, she is a massive philo-Semite, and you can tell because she spent half her fucking video on Nietzsche trying to paint him as like an anti-Semite. Like, there is less evidence that Nietzsche is an anti-Semite than there is for Karl Marx being an anti-Semite. Less direct textual evidence of that. And it's fucking a totally shitty video and a really bizarre thing of his thought to be focusing on. Her videos just aren't good. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And she treats herself like an academic philosopher, though, when she hasn't really been seriously engaging with philosophy for a very long time, and she's just sort of been phoning it in with videos that are worse than Wikipedia articles for like 5 years at this point. There's no real value here, and she's not willing to use her platform for political good. She's not even willing to say that the Gaza genocide is happening. This is someone who should just be wholly discarded. It really is that simple, okay? There are better people who have covered any topic that she covers far better, far more comprehensively, better than what you can get out of a Wikipedia article. You'd be far better served reading like the Wikipedia article on fucking Nietzsche than you would watching PhilosophyTube's video on it. You'd be better served reading the Wikipedia article on Manifest Destiny than you would be watching her video on it. And you'd certainly be better served reading the fucking Wikipedia article on the Gaza genocide than you would taking her bullshit about how, you know, both sides have their opinions. However, what really matters right now is anti-Semitism. There's another part of this video where she recommends someone. And the person who she recommends is not only another creator of Nebula who she's partnered with. That's something that you should think about here. Nebula famously fired Second Thought for being too against the Gaza genocide, for being too anti-Israel. And the other creator who she mentions here is a depraved Zionist who I've made videos of before. She gets him to read quotes for her.
The desires of too many frontier
This is Knowing Better's voice.
white people to seize by...
And she recommends Knowing Better's video on the matter. Video on American colonialism.
And Indian boarding schools, which all happened after Jefferson. If you're interested in a broad sweep of this history, Knowing Better made a fantastic video on it that I heartily recommend.
Now, Knowing Better is a depraved Zionist, a very open Zionist, and I have videos on this. I made a video or two going over this specifically, one on my main channel, this one right here, where I specifically pointed out the ridiculousness of the fact that Knowing Better found it very easy to denounce American colonial genocide in retrospect, while presently defending Israeli colonial genocide that's actually happening right now. Knowing Better is an absolutely depraved Zionist who said that Palestinians wanting to return to their homes is anti-Semitic. Here's a tweet of Knowing Better breaking down, as he said, what he called a dog whistle. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free and Palestine will never die. Palestinians wanting to return to their homes, he said, was an anti-Semitic dog whistle. This is the person who PhilosophyTube is going to promote in her videos. In a video where both sides fucking genocide, ongoing right now. 2 years into a genocide and she can't fucking bring herself to just call it plainly what it is, to even make a video about it. Now, if you want to see a video about Manifest Destiny and stuff like that, American colonial ideology, Native American genocide by the US, you should not watch Knowing Better's video on it. you should not watch PhilosophyTube's video on it. You shouldn't watch my video on it either, even though my video is a much, much, much better synthesis of the scholarship than those two could ever manage. That is actually grounded in references to the present, while theirs are totally divorced from it. They frame that sort of thing as like divorce. That's why she was so afraid to make any sort of direct link between American colonialism and Israel today, and she just sort of said others will make that link. Don't fucking watch Knowing Better's video on it. A few recommendations that I have for you. Her reading list here is just so basic. It is really, really basic. Like Patrick Wolf, Settler Colonialism as an Elimination of the Native. That one's like a 20-page journal article meant as like an introduction. If you want to actually engage with this issue in any substantial way, read Carol P. Cackle, The American West and the Nazi East, the connection that PhilosophyTube would never make. The Native Ground by Kathleen Duval, which goes over in detail how things were immediately before the foundation of the United States and going and rolling up to it. And I mean, there's more that I would recommend as well, but right now I just forgot the names because I read them 4 years ago when I made that video. It speaks a lot to how behind Knowing Better and PhilosophyTube are, and specifically how PhilosophyTube is comfortable talking about things that happened 200 years ago, but would never take a stand today. Of course, except against anti-Semitism. What she would do is incessantly talk about anti-Semitism and insert it into her videos endlessly, while 90% of Jews worldwide are backing a Jewish supremacist genocide in which minimum 60,000 people, including 20,000 children, have been massacred. So BreadTube is just worthless. We don't need BreadTube. We don't need any of these original BreadTubers anymore. ContraPoints is just like an out-and-out Zionist liberal. PhilosophyTube cares more about like being a mainstream actor than she does actual politics. Bomber guy, who always made videos about shit that doesn't matter, hasn't even been able to bring himself to like making a token denouncement of the Gaza genocide. All of these people are just liberals. They were always liberals, and they were misconstrued as something else just because they made videos about easy targets like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson. Like, you know, easy right-wing targets like those guys. These people ultimately have interests beyond their channels that they are beholden to, okay? That's why they're like this. Well, no, I mean, ContraPoints, as far as I know, doesn't. She's just in it for the love of the game. But PhilosophyTube, Bomber guy, etc., those are Nebula people. Nebula is a Zionist platform. It heavily restricts what you're allowed to say about Israel and how you're allowed to say it. PhilosophyTube is also like trying to become like a mainstream actress rather, and that even further limits what she feels comfortable saying, even though many other actors way bigger than she will ever be are saying this shit loud and proud, like Javier Bardem is saying this sort of shit all the time. People with way more to lose than she has. This is like a world-famous actor who genuinely has a ton to lose from talking about this stuff, way more than she would ever have. And his entire fucking Instagram feed, for example, is about the genocide in Gaza. She has no excuse for her cowardice aside from financial cowardice, celebrity cowardice, selfishness. Dump these people. Dump them. Get rid of them. We don't need them anymore. We never needed them in the first place, but I hope people will realize that more and more now. Creators are already beholden to two things. One is like Google's terms of service, you know, Google's monetization policies and stuff like that. Or depending on the platform they're on, you know, change that to like Twitch or whatever. And maybe like the opinions of their Patreon members. But PhilosophyTube goes way beyond that. With the Nebula sponsorship, like the fact that she's trying to become a mainstream actress. I mean, she's directly paid by Disney. I'm sure they have some sort of agreement where she's not allowed to say certain things, and she willingly accepted that. That's like on a whole nother level from the average creator. It's not the same sort of thing. You can easily be successful on YouTube, on Twitch, as independent as you can reasonably be on those platforms, like I am. PhilosophyTube and others like her go way beyond that. They don't need to do what they do. She doesn't need to be on Nebula. You know, she doesn't need to work for Disney. She chooses to do so because it benefits her, because it's a part of her ambitions to do so. She chooses that consciously to make more and more than what she already had, which was already enough, because that's what's more important to her than speaking her mind or, you know, being correct on politics and spreading like awareness and effective political action against imperialism and genocide. So discard her and discard anyone else who will not speak on this clearly and plainly, with no ifs or buts about anti-Semitism. The world is well past any sort of point where these people were useful, and I would argue that they were never useful at all.